To discuss the film with us today, we're really lucky to have Anthony Bregman. At Sundance, where I saw the film at its premiere at the Eccles, one of the things that Sherry said was she talked a little bit about Kevin Kline's involvement and et cetera, and she said that he was only a little bit of a pain in the ass and well worth every penny of it. Why don't you talk a little bit about the sort of the sequencing of how you start nailing down the elements of the production to start making it gel and how does Kevin Kline figure into that?
Well, Kevin was, it's always great when you have a role that somebody completely fits into. It completely appeals to his strengths, and with Kevin at least, because he turns down everything, and he's known in the business as Kevin Decline because he declines on everything. And when he does do something, he's not really doing it for the money, and he's not doing it because he's who he is, and he just does it because it appeals to him. And this really hit him right away when he read it, which made us overjoyed because he was the perfect person for it. 2 or 3 months before the film began, he became Henry Harrison. And whenever he would, I don't know what he was like when he was not in our presence, but when I talked to him on the phone, it would be with Henry Harrison's voice, and he grew his mustache, and he would dress up in these kind of, shabby velvet suits, and he would only meet with anybody having to do with the film in these kind of, restaurants on the Upper East Side that are, like Russian tea room like very snooty restaurants, and he would, and he kind of, and it was this process that took. That I hope for his family's sake, it was just in our presence that he was like this. But he was basically, whenever we saw him at any point, he was Henry Harrison.
Well, and I saw in the production notes that apparently he actually taught himself to pee underneath a raincoat.
Oh yeah, that was.
Well, I hope he gives lessons in that because I know it could come in handy.
It was one of the things that we were trying to figure out how to work around on the film, because literally at the beginning of every scene he would be zipping up his pants. Like it would be coming out of the building, he'd be zipping up his pants. And we're like, that doesn't really, what does that mean, that he peed in the stairwell? But that became something that became a talent that he embraced, as any great actor would. What I always look for to start off a project is two things. One is a really engaging story that can keep me interested enough in it for sometimes 5 years, the 5 years that it takes to put a movie together and get it made and get it out in the world. And this movie definitely had that. And then the other is our collaborators, who I'm excited about working with, and Bob Pulcini and Sherry Berman, who I'd worked with on American Splendor previously, were just that. They're incredibly talented visualists, kind of oddball directors, and are people who are exciting to work with creatively. This particular story, I think, had quite a history before. I think people have been trying to make it for 10 years or more, and it never totally found its right economic footing. And so, when Bob and Sherry started another script of their own, based on this book, and working with Jonathan Ames, who is the writer of the book, and Bob and Sherry brought the script to me, and we kind of found the right economic package to make it justified in the financial world, which was putting these actors in it and kind of positioning it in a certain way, and finding a financier who would come get behind the movie and pre-sell the international rights in order to get us the budget to make the movie, and that's what we did. Personally, I just try to find the things that feel interesting to me and hope that I myself are enough in the zeitgeist to find that what's interesting to me will be interesting to somebody else, and hopefully enough people to, maybe, in the case of a movie like this, maybe like 1 million other people in the world. And if 1 million other people are interested in this at this budget, then the money will be made back. When you're making Iron Man 2, which I'm sure is a great movie. I don't want to be knocking that movie. But when you're making Iron Man 2, then you really have to kind of say, well, this is what the kids want, and this is how we're doing it, and this is how we're going to deliver it, and this is how we're going to shoot it, because that's what they here with a movie like this. You say, well, let's just find a story that's interesting, and then hopefully it won't be outside of the zeitgeist so much that nobody will show up to see it. And the great thing about New York is that even when you don't fit into the mainstream, there's still tribes that you can fit into, tribes of misfits. And that's what they are, and that's what and they exist in this building, and they exist in all of your buildings, you know, and maybe you're from them, maybe you're part of those tribes, but they think that that's really the thing that we all connected with when we were making the movie, is this idea that that everybody has a tribe. Stephanie Davis, who produced the movie with me, is Jonathan Ames' manager, and she had sent the book to Bob and Sherry to see if they wanted to direct it. But she actually hadn't sent this book. She had actually sent another script based on another book that Jonathan had written. But the manager had several things, or the manager's assistant got all confused and sent the wrong book to Bob and Sherry, and that's how this movie got made, because they sent the book of The Extra Man instead of Wake Up Sir, which was this other project, and Bob and Sherry read the book and they loved it, and Monday morning their manager called them up and said, wait a minute, don't read that book. This is what they want you to direct. This is what they want you to adapt. And they said, too late, we read it, we want to do this instead. Sherry actually had an uncle who was a poet, who lived in like the top floor of some tenement on the Upper East Side, and was and basically completely penniless. They never knew how he supported himself. But he was an enormous character, incredibly articulate and vibrant and funny, like Henry Harrison in the movie, and who even though he had no discernible means of income, lived to a ripe old age of 90-something, and kind of living like the pigeons and like Henry Harrison, kind of on the fringes of great wealth. The character that Henry Harrison is based on is somewhat autobiographical from Jonathan Ames, when he moved to the city with kind of questions, you know, that I don't know the extent of his, you know, his own sexuality, and is like well documented in his writing. That he moved in with a guy who was like Henry Harrison, you know, not you know, someone who wasn't writing the great American novel, but who was a great American character. And was going to be a great American character in someone else's novel, i.e. Jonathan Ames's. And as we've been coming out with the film, a lot of these people have been surfacing. You know, everybody says, oh yeah, I know somebody exactly like that. Was this guy based on him? And, you know, I'm not sure where the real Henry Harrison is right now in the world, but, you know, maybe he's here.